When we talk about the avoidant attachment style, we often fall into the trap of pathologizing it. We view it through a lens of deficiency, as if the avoidant is someone who simply lacks the capacity for connection. But if we shift our perspective, we begin to see that avoidant behavior is not a lack of depth. It is a highly sophisticated, deeply ingrained survival strategy. It is a fortress built not to keep people out, but to keep the self intact. For an individual who has spent a lifetime equating intimacy with a loss of autonomy, the internal alarm system is always set to high. They move through the world with a subconscious mandate. To be known is to be vulnerable, and to be vulnerable is to be unsafe. They have mastered the art of the exit long before the conflict even arrives. So, when someone with this architecture looks at you and, in their own way, signals that you are the one, they are not just making a romantic gesture. They are performing a radical act of deconstruction. Think about what that actually requires. To an avoidant, you are not just a partner. You are a variable that threatens the equilibrium of their carefully curated independence. When they say or show that you are the one, they are effectively telling their own nervous system to stand down. They are overriding a lifetime of conditioning that says, run. They are choosing to dismantle the very walls that have kept them feeling secure for years. This is why it is so profound. When an avoidant leans into you, they are not doing it because they are unaware of the risks. They are doing it in spite of them. They have performed a cost-benefit analysis of their own solitude versus the possibility of you, and for the first time, the math has changed. You have become the exception to their rule. You have successfully navigated the labyrinth of their defenses, not by force, but by providing a quality of presence that makes the risk of being known feel, for the first time, like a sanctuary rather than a trap. It is crucial to understand that this isn't a light switch. It is a slow, agonizingly deliberate process of trust. They are watching you, testing the boundaries of your patience, and observing how you handle their need for space. When they finally arrive at the conclusion that you are the one, it is because you have proven that you are not a threat to their sovereignty. You have shown them that they can be fully seen by you without being consumed by you. This realization is the bridge between their past and a potential future. It is the moment they stop viewing the relationship as a negotiation of power and start viewing it as a partnership of equals. You haven't just won their affection. You have earned a seat at the table of their inner life, a place that has been vacant for a very long time. Ultimately, recognize that when an avoidant chooses you, they are choosing to rewrite their own history. They are betting their sense of safety on your consistency. It is a heavy, beautiful, and rare admission of need. Do not take it lightly, for in the quiet language of the avoidant, this is the most profound declaration of love they are capable of making. If you find yourself in this position, understand that you are not just a partner. You are the catalyst for their evolution. If we accept that the avoidant's internal world is governed by the preservation of autonomy, then we must confront the gravity of their choice to stay. In the landscape of human connection, we often mistake enthusiasm for commitment. We look for the grand declarations, the constant availability, the seamless fusion of two lives. But for the avoidant, that kind of fusion feels like an existential threat. Their default setting is not, how do I get closer to you, but, how do I maintain enough distance to remain myself? When you understand this, you begin to see that their choice to compromise is not a minor concession. It is an act of profound psychological labor. When an avoidant decides that you are the one, they are making a conscious, deliberate choice to override their most primal instinct, the instinct to flee. This is not a passive state of falling in love. It is an active, ongoing negotiation with their own fear. Every time they choose to stay through a disagreement rather than withdrawing into silence, every time they choose to share a vulnerability rather than pivoting to a safer, more superficial topic, they are essentially saying, I value the reality of us more than the safety of my solitude. This is where the philosophical weight of their commitment truly lies. We often view commitment as a destination, a ring, a contract, a label. But for the avoidant, commitment is a daily, grueling practice of self-regulation. They are constantly monitoring their own internal pressure gauge. When they choose to lean in, they are consciously deciding that the discomfort of vulnerability is a price worth paying for the depth of your presence. They are essentially telling their nervous system that the threat of being known is now outweighed by the necessity of being with you. This is why, if you are the person who has triggered this shift, you must understand that you are not just a partner in the conventional sense. You have become a catalyst for their growth. You have created a space that is sufficiently secure to allow them to risk their autonomy. This is a rare and heavy responsibility. It requires a level of patience that is often misunderstood as passivity, but is, in reality, a form of profound emotional intelligence. You are holding space for someone who is learning, for the first time, that they do not need to be alone to be safe. When you witness an avoidant fighting their own nature to remain in your orbit, do not look for the fireworks of typical romance. Look for the quiet, consistent friction of someone who is choosing you over their own defense mechanisms. They are essentially saying that you are the only person who has made the risk of being known feel safer than the comfort of being alone. Remember, the most powerful proof of love is not found in the ease of the connection, but in the deliberate, conscious choice to stay when every instinct screams to leave. The tragedy of many relationships lies not in a lack of love, but in a fundamental misalignment of syntax. We are all fluent in our own native language of attachment, and we often assume that if our partner isn't speaking our dialect, they aren't speaking at all. For those of us who crave overt, constant verbal affirmation, the avoidant partner can feel like a closed book. We interpret their silence as indifference, their need for space as rejection, and their measured pace as a lack of investment. But this is where we must pause and recalibrate our understanding of what intimacy actually looks like. For the avoidant, love is rarely a loud, performative explosion. It is, instead, a quiet, steady accumulation of trust. When they say, "You are the one," they aren't necessarily offering a poetic soliloquy. They are offering something far more tangible. They are offering you their presence in a way they have never offered it to anyone else. You might find this in the way they allow you to see them when they are tired, or in the way they begin to consult you on decisions that once belonged solely to their private domain. They are letting you into the inner sanctum of their life, which, for them, is a territory previously marked, "Do not enter." We have to learn to read the subtext of their behavior. When an avoidant partner chooses to stay in the room during a difficult conversation instead of physically or emotionally exiting, that is a declaration of love. When they share a small, seemingly insignificant detail about their past or their fears, they are handing you a piece of their armor. These are not small things. In the architecture of an avoidance world, these are monumental shifts. They are essentially saying, "I am willing to let you witness the parts of me I have spent my life hiding, because I trust you enough to hold them." If you are waiting for them to mirror your own style of emotional expression, you will miss the very thing you are looking for. You will be so busy listening for a specific melody that you will fail to hear the symphony they are actually playing. Their language of love is written in the currency of consistency and the slow, deliberate dismantling of their own barriers. It is a language of action, not just sentiment. It is the quiet, persistent choice to show up, even when every fiber of their being is screaming at them to retreat to the safety of the periphery. This requires a shift in your own perception. You must move away from the demand that they be someone else and instead move toward an appreciation of the specific, hard-won ways they are choosing to be with you. It is about recognizing that their version of intimacy is not a lesser version. It is simply a more guarded one, which makes the moments they do let you in infinitely more precious. When you stop measuring their love by your own yardstick, you begin to see the depth of the commitment they are making. The challenge, then, is to cultivate the patience to listen to a language you weren't taught to speak. It is about honoring the slow, steady work of their unfolding. If you can learn to recognize these subtle, high-value signals, you will realize that you aren't protectionist. You are being entrusted with the most guarded part of another human being. So, look closer at the quiet moments, the small concessions, and the persistent presence. Do not mistake their restraint for a lack of depth. Recognize it for what it is, a profound, deliberate effort to bridge the gap between their world and yours. The question is not whether they are capable of deep love, but whether you are capable of seeing it when it arrives in a form you didn't expect. This brings us to a critical, often uncomfortable realization. Being the one for an avoidant is not a passive privilege, it is a profound responsibility. There is a temptation, once we feel we have won the trust of someone who typically keeps the world at arm's length, to treat that victory as a final destination. We might think, they've finally opened up, so now I can relax, and they will simply remain here. But that is a misunderstanding of the avoidant's internal architecture. Their vulnerability is not a permanent state. It is a fragile, hard-won achievement that requires a specific kind of environment to survive. If you are the person they have chosen, you are effectively the custodian of their newfound capacity for intimacy. This does not mean you are responsible for their healing. That is a burden no partner should ever carry. But it does mean you are the primary witness to their growth. When they finally lower the drawbridge, they are looking for a sanctuary, not a mirror that reflects their own fears back at them. If you respond to their vulnerability with demands for more, or if you punish them for the times they inevitably need to retreat to recharge, you inadvertently confirm their deepest, most destructive suspicion, that being known is, in fact, dangerous. The responsibility here is one of radical patience and emotional containment. You are being asked to hold space for a person who is learning, in real time, how to exist in a state of interdependence. This requires a high level of emotional maturity on your part. You must be able to distinguish between their need for autonomy and their need for connection. When they pull back, and they will, can you hold your own center without spiraling into the anxiety that they are leaving? Can you see their withdrawal not as a personal indictment of your worth, but as a necessary recalibration of their nervous system? Being the one means you are the person who has proven that you can handle their complexity without trying to fix it. It means you have demonstrated that you are not going to be overwhelmed by their periodic need for distance, nor will you be offended by it. You are the steady ground. When they realize that you are not going to abandon them when they are distant, and that you are not going to smother them when they are close, you provide the only thing that can truly heal an avoidant attachment: the experience of being loved without being consumed. Ultimately, this is a test of your own security. To be the partner of an avoidant is to be invited into a dance where the steps are often unconventional. It requires you to be secure enough in your own value that you do not need their constant validation to feel whole. You are not just a participant in their life, you are the architect of a new, safer reality for them. So, ask yourself, are you capable of holding this space, not because you need to change them, but because you recognize the immense courage it takes for them to simply be present with you? True intimacy is not found in the absence of fear, but in the decision to stay despite it. Ultimately, the journey of loving an avoidant is not about fixing them or waiting for them to become someone else. It is about recognizing that their capacity to choose you is a mirror held up to your own capacity. For secure, grounded love. When you realize that you are the one they have chosen to break their own patterns for, you are not just witnessing their transformation. you are participating in your own. This dynamic forces you to confront your own relationship with autonomy, your own fears of abandonment, and your own definitions of what it means to be truly seen. The invitation here is to move beyond the reactive cycle of chasing and distancing. Instead, I want you to consider the power of becoming a secure base. This is a concept often discussed in clinical circles, but it is rarely practiced with the depth it deserves. To be a secure base for an avoidant is to provide a consistent, non-judgmental presence that remains steady even when they are struggling with their own internal weather. It means you are not easily rattled by their need for space, nor are you desperate to fill every silence with reassurance. You are secure enough in your own worth that their temporary withdrawal does not feel like a spalled rejection of your value. When you hold this space, something remarkable happens. The avoidant, who has spent their life bracing for the impact of someone else's emotional demands, begins to realize that they don't have to fight for their freedom in order to have a relationship. They learn that they can be both deeply connected and entirely themselves. You become the proof that intimacy does not have to be a zero-sum game where they lose their selfhood to gain a partner. This is the ultimate gift you offer, the safety to be human in all their complexity, without the threat of being swallowed whole. But remember, this requires a profound level of self-awareness on your part. You cannot be a secure base if you are constantly looking to them to validate your existence. You must be rooted in your own life, your own passions, and your own sense of self-sufficiency. Ironically, the more you cultivate your own independence, the safer you become to the avoidant. It lowers the stakes. It removes the pressure. It allows them to lean in because they no longer feel like they are being pulled. As we conclude, I want you to reflect on the nature of the choice you are making. To love an avoidant is to engage in a high-stakes, high-reward dance of psychological evolution. It requires you to be patient, to be observant, and, above all, to be secure in your own skin. It is not a path for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to do the work. It offers a depth of connection that is earned, not given. It is a rare thing to be the one who changes the trajectory of someone else's internal world. Do not look for the grand, performative gestures that society tells you to expect. Instead, look for the quiet, consistent ways they are fighting for you, and realize that in their struggle to stay, they are offering you the most honest version of love they possess. The question is not whether they are capable of loving you, it is whether you are capable of holding the space for the unique, quiet, and profound way they choose to show it.